If I were to ask you what a period is, how well would you be able to answer me? Or if I maybe asked you to put a tampon inside of a water bottle, could you succeed? These were the questions my group and I set out to ask both men and women over the last few weeks. We wanted to sort of work towards destigmatizing menstruation and providing further resources and education about female health. We asked the men and the women similar yet different questions to sort of dig down to the root of where stigma around menstruation comes from. Our goal was to emphasize the importance of education in schools about female health, not only to women, but also for men. We started off with a really simple question. What is a period? All right, so whenever you are ready, you can go ahead and explain to the best of your ability what a period is.
Um, when her why is this harder to say than I thought it would
A period is a cycle of menstruation.
It is when an egg has been sitting in the uterus.
Uterus is supposed to, like have a baby once a month. Like the egg likes to go down that, the little fallopian tube.
Somebody who has a uterus will shed their uterine lining.
It hasn't been fertilized and the blood gets like old and gross.
But then the uterus gets really mad that it's not like inseminated, so it throws like just a fit.
Every month to tell you that you are not pregnant because the egg ends up falling down.
uterus like recycling, like almost like destroying itself.
The body like expels all of it.
So, so then you bleed and your uterine lining sheds, and then that's why you bleed.
Because it was getting prepared to make a baby and hold a baby, but then it was like, just kidding. So then it's like sheds, and that is what a period is.
Then we moved on to asking if there was any formal education that they had received in school. This was an especially important question because 72% of boys were never taught about periods in school, and over 2/3 of students are overall dissatisfied with the education that they received in the first place. Did you have any formal education in school about women's health?
Nope. We had sex ed in 4th grade.
Yeah, probably for like a little bit of time during 1 year.
I think honestly, they probably taught me more about that than sex and how to be safe with it.
They had one day, I think in the 4th grade, they separated the boys from the girls, and they told girls about like menstrual cycles, and they told boys about like nocturnal emissions, and that was like it.
5th, 6th, and 7th grade, because I moved schools again in like high school. But it was like online, so it wasn't like super solid.
Like for the guys, we didn't have to go in depth.
But it was never like, let's talk about periods. It was more like, this is what your body does. And then it was like, that's it.
But like we weren't allowed to, also we were told we can't like tell each other about, like we weren't allowed to tell the girls what we learned and vice versa. And that was it, basically.
Well, what about at home? Are the maternal and paternal figures in the home providing enough education to cover what the schools aren't teaching? Did you have any female figures in your life that would talk to you about menstruation at all?
My mom did.
After learning about it in school, like I never really looked into it again. Like my mom would sometimes try to explain it to me, and I'd be like, "No, I don't." You know, like that's gross, mom. You know, like if anything related to sex, I wouldn't want my mom to explain to me.
When my sister started her period, my mom sat me down and made me, and like demonstrated is not the right way to phrase it, but like just taught me what everything was.
What about any male figures in your life? Did they talk to you about periods at all?
Not really, no. My dad just said, listen to your mom.
No, definitely not my dad.
No, my dad really never talked about those subjects with me ever, so.
My dad is my male figure in my life, and he does not know much about periods. I would like ask him to buy me tampons sometimes, and he would do it, but hesitantly.
Oh, my dad did not talk about that. He was like, no, I don't see that. I was like, okay.
Yikes. Well, moving past education, we wanted to focus on the stereotypes that are pushed onto women when they're on their periods. Over 2/3 of students agree that society teaches women to be ashamed of their periods. So we asked the boys what they thought were the most common stereotypes they heard about women on their periods. So, what do you typically tend to hear are the most stereotypical things said about women on their periods?
The stereotypes is they get like really or moody.
That they're moody and unstable and irrational.
Emotional or get angry easily.
Probably that they like, are too mad that they like can't think rationally.
That they want chocolate and a lot of food.
Oh, it's just her time of the month, type joke to explain when a man thinks a woman's being too moody or something. So
Like sometimes a little bit like aggressive, and also very hungry and just like in a lot of pain.
And like when I've heard it described to me, it's just like, wow, that stinks. And I would be pissed if I had to deal with that too. So that's what I think of it.
Then we ask girls to share their experience with stereotypes and the ways it's affected them through their school years and through their life in general. Over 90% of girls feel embarrassed or ashamed of having their period during school days, and this causes them to either miss school or to miss classes because of their period. This overall can stunt their educational growth, opportunities that they receive, and really harms their self-image. Did you experience any embarrassment in school when it came to your period?
I mean, yeah. I think it's like normal, just because like you're always like, did I bleed through? And then you do like the little like, hey, I'm gonna walk in front of you and can you tell me if you like see like the red on my pants? Just even telling like a male teacher like I have to go to the nurse right now. And they're like, why? I'm like, do we want to have this conversation right now? I guess it's like kind of normal. It's a shared experience sometimes.
I mean, really, like just when I first got it, I was at school and just didn't tell any of my friends about it because I was embarrassed about it.
Oh my god, actually, there was this one time. So when I first started my period, I wasn't used to wearing pads, as most people aren't. And I was on my period and I was messing with it. We were like at the park or whatever, and I like thought I was trying to be subtle. Like I like went over to the side and was just like kind of messing with it. And this girl comes up. She was like very tomboy, and I don't know why she decided to pick on me this day. But she's like, "What are you doing? Like, why are you hiding? Like, what are you doing?" And I have impulse control issues, so I tried to be like, stop, like, can you just like drop it? I was like, stop, I'm on my period, like, stop, like. She just like wasn't really getting the idea, so I ended up pulling her by her hoodie, and I got in trouble for that. So I did have some embarrassment. After that, I was very open with it, and it was never really a problem. I used to have such bad cramps that I would bring my heating pad with me to school. But I don't think anyone ever, I mean, I don't think any man really understood, like, why I did that. But I was just like, I'm on my period, bro. Like, sorry, I need this.
Did anyone ever push some negative stereotypes onto you?
Well, I would say that they did stereotype me in the sense that they would assume that I'm more emotional or more upset or mean when I'm on my period.
Probably. I mean, I've definitely been like called like a hormone monster. But like it was like funny in the moment, but I didn't really think about it as like a bad thing.
Sometimes when I'm on my period, I get emotional and I can get mad easily, and a lot of the times men will say, oh, like she's just on her period, which is like completely invalidating everything, even though I'm on my period. So.
As if that's the reason I'm being a bitch to them and not because they're just being mean to me or I'm trying to stand up for myself in that situation.
If it has, it's been made in like a safe environment where I understood it was a joke and they didn't really mean it as like a bad thing. Like my male friends that know me super well, and I'm like, oh, okay, because like they'll help me with anything, so I'm like, it's whatever. Like it was funny in the moment because we both hee ha ha about it. Yeah.
Women are irrational when they're on their periods, like just over emotional, like angry, all these negative stereotypes.
A lot of women have learned to just kind of let it roll off our backs because so many people, not just even men, have been like, oh, you're just on your period. Is that why you're like in a bad mood? Because that is like the most significant association with like your period. Oh, that must mean you're in a bad mood.
Do you think these stereotypes revolving women and their periods is harmful for women's self-esteem?
Yeah, well, I mean, all this negative stereotypes about women, like saying, oh, they're gonna be like super moody and like, oh, like my sister's such a jerk when she's on her period, or like stuff like that. It's usually like men saying that, obviously, because men don't get periods, so like men don't understand. That could be potentially harmful for sure.
My girlfriend has told me about like people had, or her dad, I was a close family member, they probably shouldn't have been making fun of it, made fun of her for it, or like was like, oh, are you on your period, whenever she would like get upset, and that definitely did hurt. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be really hard to like tell someone you're on your period if you feel like they're just gonna judge you or treat you differently.
Especially like if you're like, for like young people who are just like first getting their like periods, and then they're like stigmatized, and it's like they're told they're gonna be all moody and they're gonna be all like irrationally like irritable and like this and that. I think that could totally be harmful, as opposed to just making it just like, oh, yeah, this happens, this is actually what it is scientifically. Because like when you had to ask me in the beginning, I mean, I kind of know what it is, but like I just have to be like, so yeah, if that answers your question.
Did these jokes and these sort of microaggressions happen to make you self-conscious when it came to your period?
Kind of.
I don't take jokes well, but when people say something like that, I kind of embrace it. So whenever someone was like, oh, are you being like mean because you're on your period? I'd be like, no, but I will mess you up either way.
Because it's like, okay, like I'm on it, but I'm not really gonna like tell you about it. Unless it's like a really close friend. Because then they're just like, but you're on your period, okay. I'm like, yeah, I guess. It's like pretty normal. Because I think like it's such a normal thing in society. And then, I don't know, some people just feel so weird about it.
Like, I'm very direct, very much stand up for myself. So I didn't really let it get to me in that sense, but it definitely affects a lot of women, just in the fact that like I have to worry that if I'm being extra mean at a period of time, they might just be like, oh, it's because she's on her period, instead of having like a real justification for me being upset.
Yeah, I feel like because I knew like all of these stereotypes that a lot of men think about, or like around periods, like I would like walk around eggshells, like not trying to be like overly emotional or like angry. So yeah.
Overall, yeah.
The stereotypes that young girls will hear about their periods is not only harmful for their self-image, but it also allows for open bullying, teasing, and harassment from their peers. This is why we need mothers, fathers, teachers, and anyone who's willing to educate both girls and boys about periods to do just that. This, over time, and further education for older generations will allow periods to no longer be gross to talk about. This will also allow little girls to help build up their self-esteem before it ever has a chance to be torn down. For further resources on period poverty, menstrual health education, and destigmatizing menstruation, please go to instagram.com/redequity.